Died in Madrid at the age of 94. During a career spanning 70 years, Segovia was widely recognized as an unparalleled master of the classical guitar.
Nobody in the world imagined the guitar could be played this way until Segovia played it this way. He taught himself. He played his first concert at 14. When he was 90, he was asked if he wasn't growing tired.
I always say that I don't mind to be tired in this life, because of then I have the eternity to rest, you know.
Now he has eternity to rest. The rest is silence, as Shakespeare wrote. But what a legacy of sounds Andres Segovia left us. An astonished world honored him for his skill. He sincerely believed the music that came from his guitar was a gift to him from God. Nobody ever offered a better explanation.
Aged 94.
This famous musician touched many lives and travelled all over the world, including a visit to New Zealand in the 60s.
Dylan Tate with some Segovia nostalgia.
The great man himself. Until he came along, no one took the guitar seriously. Top New Zealand classical guitarist Daphne Dobson was a student in Toronto in the 50s, and finding one piece of technique difficult, tucked herself under the stage and peered through the decking to catch the Segovia technique at close range.
I crouched, and he started to play, so I leant backwards and I looked up underneath his right hand to see if he would do it, and he did it, and I was overjoyed. So when the applause after that was going on, I went back to my seat and crouched down and tried not to look, and, you know, and somebody dug me in the side here and said, "He's looking at you." And so I looked up, and with his glasses forward, you see, he turned in his chair and he looked right at me and he started to play. And he played looking at me only for the entire performance.
In 1964, Segovia made his only New Zealand tour.
He was the inspiration, I think, for all guitarists in New Zealand, particularly of that era, because in the late 1950s and early 1960s there were no teachers, little music, few instruments, very few people involved perhaps as well.
That's Thursday's Top Half.
Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Good night. Segovia brought nobility to the instrument and was widely respected as the greatest guitarist the world's ever seen. The BBC's Newsnight programme pays homage to this great Spanish musician and talks to his most famous pupil, Julian Bream. But first of all, Chris Lowe looks at Segovia's early life.
Andres Segovia was born in 1893 in southern Spain. His parents wanted him to train as a classical pianist or violinist, but much to their annoyance, it was the humble guitar which entranced him. He learned to play it by ear, and by the age of 16, Segovia was giving his first public performance. The guitar in the early 20th century was scorned by serious musicians, seen as the instrument of gypsies and flamenco players. Segovia transformed that image, raising it to the status of a classical instrument.
I had to rescue the guitar twice. First, from the noisy hands of the flamenco players. And second, from the poor repertoire that it had.
He persuaded leading composers to write for the guitar, and spent a lifetime adapting classical works for his instrument. He left Spain during the Civil War to live in America, but spent the last 30 years of his life back home on the Costa del Sol. He had enormous energy, often giving 100 concerts a year. Honours were heaped upon him all over the world. He was still performing as recently as 2 months ago, and his appetite for making music never wavered.
All my life, I have worked very much. And every artist or every philosopher or every scientist is always the same thing. The work is more important than any other thing.
The special magic of Segovia, it's very hard to tell you that, but I can tell you that he was built for the guitar. He was a big man, strong man, had magnificent fingers, and he also worked out such a wonderful rational technique of playing the instrument that the technique itself was still in quite good shape right till the end of his life.
He used to speak about the guitar as a lady who you had to finger gently to produce beautiful sounds from. I mean, he presumably was a very romantic soul, was he, about his instrument?
Yes, he was very romantic as a person. And his attitudes to music were romantic. His performances were always romantic. And he was just a person that loved the evocative feeling of music rather than, say, the intellectual content of a piece of music.
Julian Bream talking about his friend Andres Segovia, who died today at the age of 94. And that's World Watch.